the alien girl, Valara, hated Earth. She had never met a human she could tolerate, and to her people, Earth was nothing more than a backward, violent planet, a place where survival was a daily struggle and the inhabitants were no better than animals. The Vayrani, her race, had long considered humans beneath them, primitive creatures with no understanding of galactic diplomacy or peace. Valara had been raised with this prejudice. She was born on the Vayrani homeworld, a lush planet rich with technology and a deep understanding of the universe. She had studied the stars from a young age, and Earth had always been a distant curiosity, something she was taught to avoid and disdain. In her eyes, humans were not worth her time. Her first encounter with Earth came when her people arrived on a peace mission. They had hoped to establish trade and possibly share some of their technology with the humans, but they were met with hostility. The humans, mistrustful and skeptical of any alien race, saw the Vayrani as invaders, not allies. The peace talks collapsed in chaos, and Valara watched from the sidelines as the humans, armed with their crude weapons, attempted to fight off the Vayrani's advanced technology. For Valara, the failure of the mission only solidified her disdain for humanity. She saw the humans as nothing more than primitives, incapable of understanding the vastness of the universe, let alone being part of it. But then everything changed. Valara was sent on a scouting mission to observe the human space fleet. Her assignment was to gather intelligence on their military capabilities and weaknesses, to help her people plan their next move. It was a task she loathed, but as an officer in the Vayrani military, it was her duty. She flew her sleek, advanced ship silently through the cold depths of space, watching the humans from afar. She marveled at their primitive ships, their outdated technology, and the arrogance they had in believing they could challenge a race as advanced as hers. But fate had other plans. As she watched one of the human ships from a distance, an unexpected attack from a rogue faction of alien pirates struck. Valara's ship was caught in the crossfire, and before she knew it, her vessel was damaged beyond repair. Systems failed, and the cockpit began to shake violently. Her world spun out of control as alarms blared and warning lights flashed. In the chaos, Valara fought to regain control, but it was futile. The next thing she knew, her ship was spiraling into the atmosphere of a nearby planet Earth. The crash landing was violent. The ship skidded across the surface of a forested area, tearing through trees before coming to a halt in a crater of dirt and metal. Valara was disoriented, bruised, and shaken, but still alive. She managed to unstrap herself from her seat, struggling to keep her wits together as smoke poured from the damaged cockpit. Her life support systems were failing, and she had no way of contacting her people. Stranded on a foreign planet, she realized she was completely alone. Just as she was about to step outside, the forest around her lit up with the sound of engines. She turned to see a human fighter jet descending toward her, its engines roaring through the atmosphere. It was piloted by a man, his face hidden beneath the mask of his helmet. The human pilot came in low, expertly navigating the wreckage as if he had done this 1,000 times before. He landed nearby, quickly disembarking from the jet as he approached her ship. Valara was ready to defend herself. She still carried the arrogance of her race, believing that humans would try to kill her on sight. But as the man got closer, she realized something. He wasn't aiming a weapon at her. Instead, he was offering her a hand, extending it toward her in a gesture of help, not hostility. "You're going to need some help," the man said, his voice calm but urgent. He spoke in English, but there was something in his tone that suggested he had seen countless crashes before. "We need to get you out of here." Valara hesitated. She was not accustomed to relying on anyone, especially not humans. Her pride told her to reject his help, to fight him off, but the sudden wave of weakness from her injuries and the crashing realization that she could not survive alone made her falter. For the first time in her life, she had no choice but to accept help. She grasped his hand, and he helped her to her feet, supporting her as they walked away from the wreckage of her ship. The pilot didn't ask questions. He simply guided her to his fighter, making sure she was safely inside before taking off again. As they flew away from the crash site, Valara couldn't help but notice how different this human was from the one she had encountered before. He wasn't filled with hatred, nor was he arrogant. He had saved her life without expecting anything in return. In that moment, Valara began to question everything she had been taught about humanity. For days, the human pilot, whose name turned out to be Captain Lucas Ryder, cared for her. He didn't treat her like an alien or a threat. Instead, he treated her as a fellow being, offering food, water, and shelter. He showed her kindness, asking about her world, listening to her stories, and teaching her about Earth. In return, Valara began to open up, sharing her knowledge of the universe and the struggles her people had faced. Slowly, she began to see humans in a new light. The strength they had, the resilience they showed in the face of adversity, it was something she had never understood before. Humans were flawed, yes, but they had a depth to them that she could not deny. They fought for survival, for each other, and for the future. And they did so with a passion and determination that Valara couldn't help but admire. As time went on, Valara realized that she had been wrong about Earth and the humans. Her hatred had clouded her judgment, preventing her from seeing the truth. Captain Ryder had saved her life, not because of some selfish motive, but because he saw another sentient being in need of help. And in that moment, he had shown her the true meaning of compassion and sacrifice. By the time Valara's ship had been repaired, she was no longer the same alien girl who had hated Earth and its people. She had come to understand that the strength of a species wasn't just in their technology or their superiority, but in their capacity for empathy, for kindness, and for growth. She said her goodbyes to Captain Ryder, promising to carry the lessons she had learned back to her people. She returned to her ship, but now with a new perspective, one that saw humans not as enemies, but as equals. The galaxy was vast, and there was room for all species to grow and learn together. And as Valara ascended back into space, Earth no longer seemed like a backwards planet. Instead, it was a place of hope, a place where compassion had changed the fate of an alien girl who once hated everything about it.